This episode is sponsored by Ansari Immigration Law, a Canadian immigration and refugee law firm. To kickstart your Canadian journey, call, text, WhatsApp this number +1 647 494 8299. All right.
Yeah. Thank you,
So
Em.
thank you, Ellie. So it's a funny story how Ellie, you were gonna say something.
Yeah, I am so happy to have you, Amina, here. I'm really, really happy. Now you can tell your story.
Awesome. No, yeah, it's a funny story how Yamina and I connected. I actually was browsing through LinkedIn, and it's so funny we were not even connected at that point. I'm not sure how, but that specific post it came up on my like what's that the profile like as you scroll through all the um, LinkedIn posts caught my attention because she was being so genuine about her experience, which I will let her share, which resulted in flurries of emotions within me because I felt anger, sadness, but more so women empowerment because what she did after that was just super inspiring. So I reached out, and the rest is history. And I think the best part is about to come because Yamina is going to share like what that post is about and her story as she goes through that. So Yamina, I'll pass the mic to you.
Yeah, so basically, I became a lawyer a few years ago, and my first job out of law school, I was super excited for it. It was the top Aboriginal law firm in Canada, and that was the area that I had been super interested in. It was in Toronto, which was my hometown, and I even got an office that was the office of one of somebody who really inspired me. So I thought everything was kind of lining up the way that it was supposed to. And then I started working there, and I basically spent all my days locked away in an office, uh, drafting memos and doing research, never actually seeing clients, or or even barely seeing the light of day. So it was honestly, it was starting to take a real toll on me and my mental health. And obviously, those are not skills that I'm well suited to or that I enjoy. So I think it wasn't a good fit for the organization either because one day, um, when I'd only been working there about 7, 8 months, I was pulled in to have a meeting with the HR director, who told me that I was being let go, that I was too ambitious for the role, and they didn't see that opportunity for me there. And quite frankly, when she said that to me, the first thing that washed over my body was just a wave of relief that I didn't have to go there the next day and work on these tasks that were just not inspiring me.
Hmm.
Um, so I was on a high for that for a couple of weeks, and then reality kind of kicked in where I was like, what am I gonna do now? Where am I going? And also fear, right? Because this was my first job out of law school. It had gone badly for me, it had gone badly for them. So this fear creeps in of, am I ever gonna find a place where I can show my skills and where they're valued? Um, and I sat in that fear and that uncertainty for quite a while. And I actually I almost made it a mission to turn my fear and uncertainty into a journey. Like I had a bit of an eat, pray, love, but not with romance, but with work. So I went to France. So I didn't go to the eat, pray, love countries. I didn't go to Bali, India, and Italy. But I went to France, and I took a month out. I became a yoga instructor. So I guess that was my pray. And then I went to Mexico and I got certified as a rescue scuba diver.
Hmm.
And then back home in Toronto, I got certified as a bartender. So I guess I did a um, drunk pray dive
I
instead
was
of a instead of a instead of a eat pray love. but just kind of reigniting that joie de vivre, that passion for life, and giving myself that opportunity to really reflect on what do I want to do next. And out of that, I realized I really need to work for myself. I need to give myself the best shot, the best opportunity to excel in this career. I started my firm, and yeah, so now we're a multinational law firm. We have offices in 3 cities. And I love helping people with immigration and refugee law needs. I've won some awards in the area. I get really positive feedback from my clients. So it's been a painful journey to get here, but also really fulfilling. And I wouldn't change it for anything in the world.
That is so powerful, and that's really inspiring. And I'm
Yeah.
hearing a lot of resilience in your story, Yameena. And this quote, I actually plucked it out from your LinkedIn post. That really means a lot to me. Is I just needed to create an environment where my strengths could shine, and I thought that resonated so well. And I think exactly what you're, referring to as well. Ellie, you wanna?
Yeah. Yeah, because I have heard a lot about Yamina on your story, but I also want everyone to know about your story. And I have a Merriam Webster definition of what resilient is. It means the ability to bounce back or recover from adversity, challenges, or setbacks. But I want to hear the Yamina side of resilience because I think everyone wants to know that. Because I guess it's quite different from what the Merriam Webster dictionary says.
I think to me, such an important part of this journey is really embracing all of the negative feelings that we have. I often find that in society and social media and even in our own personal conversations, we want to kind of simplify the messy emotions that we all go through and kind of glaze over them. So, oh, I had a setback and then I immediately bounced back because I know as a society, it's very uncomfortable to talk about that fear and that uncertainty that happens in that middle moment, that moment between something bad has happened and the moment where you figure out where you're going. And to me, that's the moment that I really leaned into was that pain of wow, this is the first time that I've been fired from a job. What does this say about me? What does this say about my industry? And this had been coming after several setbacks in my industry that had already been making me question whether I want to work in the Canadian legal industry. So really making me think, okay, is this an environment where I can just go get a job somewhere else, or is this an environment where I actually need to create my own job? And that moment of also pain of realizing, hey, I wasn't that great at those tasks, right? It's not that I quit, they fired me. So I have to be aware of that so that going forward, I don't create a job for myself that really focuses on doing those tasks on a daily basis.
Mm.
So I think for me, it's not to kind of brood and become really depressed, although I think that can happen in those situations, but to really take that opportunity to feel those feelings. Because when we have a negative feeling, our body, our being is trying to tell us something and teach us something. And for me, I was being taught that, hey, this industry as a whole is probably not going to create an environment for me. So I need to create my own environment. And that there's certain things that I shine at and there's other things that I don't shine at. And taking all of that and bouncing back in a really genuine way rather than just finding the next thing and grabbing hold of it because it's so painful to sit in that moment of fear and doubt and pain.
That's a really, really strong perspective there. And you mentioned like your drug prey, and the vacation did help too, right?
Yeah.
Quick question for you is: do you notice, like you mentioned, like you didn't want to get into those tasks, and that's something that you took away? What's the difference if you can share, like right now, like what are you doing differently to make sure, like you're passionate, and I know you're doing something that you're passionate about. That's why it's with the immigration. Like, can you tell us more about that? Like, more like the stark differences between back then and now, and the opportunities that you have that you won't have when you work in an organization like that.
Yes.
So I love engaging with people. I love engaging with clients. And generally I notice when people engage with me, they feel comfortable to me. They want to open up to me. And that's something that's just not usually possible for a junior lawyer at a massive law firm in a major city. Those kind of client relationship is going to be done by somebody who's more experienced or more knowledgeable. And for the folks that are just listening in, I just did a bunch of air quotes. So that's something. The primary part of my job now is engaging with folks. It's engaging with the two of you. It's engaging with my clients. It's engaging with community members. So that's something that I really enjoy. The other part that makes this role distinct is that I work with immigrants, and I'm an immigrant. So I understand and value how important immigration is, and that makes this work just a lot more meaningful for me, whereas that wasn't something I did at all in my former role. And then the last part, in terms of what kind of opportunities does this open up for me? I mean, I'm here right now speaking to the both of you. This would not have been possible if I was working as a junior lawyer in a law firm and wasn't allowed to speak my piece. Tomorrow, I'm hosting a press conference with academics, community organizers, with the former UN Special Rapporteur. So really, really, really big names. And there's no way that I would have been invited to do something like that. And then obviously I have opportunities to appear in the media, to actually appear in some major international outlets like Al Jazeera, CBC, CTV, Globe and Mail, things like that. And there's no way that opportunity would ever have been given to me. But because I work for myself, nobody's going to say to me, you're not qualified enough, you're not knowledgeable enough. I'm the person who's gonna raise my hand and say, I can do this. And then obviously afterwards, after you raise your hand, you have to actually figure out how to do it. But I think first you just raise your hand, and then it's too late, right?
You don't realize you did it.
Yeah. You know what? Like, I don't really like this saying, but at the same time, I really like it. Like, fake it till you make it. Like, it's better to just take the opportunity by its, like, just hold it by its horn or whatever, and then just do it. And if you don't know, you just like figure it out later, like how to do that, right? I mean,
But
That's a
that's
lot
true.
of my life. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's a lot of your life, but yeah, a lot of my life is, yeah, I want to do this. I'm totally qualified to do this. And then you're a little far in, and then you just can't back out. So for better or worse, now you're figuring it out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is also, if you're not going to fight for what you want, who else is going to do that for you?
Yeah,
No one else,
totally.
So, yeah.
We always believe
I think
that.
that's a really good point. But I think the other thing is, I do find, for me personally, it's helpful to have a network or of people
Mm.
who believe in me and who are there for me.
Oh.
And I know before this conversation, the two of you saw my husband, who was actually taking out the dishes, um, because there's no way that I could run a law firm and be pregnant and do all the advocacy that I do if there wasn't someone who was very involved, not just in their words, but in their actions, supporting me every day. So yes, we have to believe in ourselves more than anybody else believes in us. But for me personally, having that network,
Mm.
and it's not
Yeah.
just my husband. I mean, having a good group of girlfriends that you can text at the end of the day and say, "Ah, I had a really bad day today, and I just don't know if I believe in myself anymore. I don't know where I'm going, what I'm doing," and really expose those vulnerabilities and have that person text back to you. I believe in you. You're intelligent. I see you. I see your drive. Um, so definitely, we have to be the first ones who are there for us, but having those people who can be there for us on a day-to-day basis, but also who can be there for us when we're most down, I know for me personally, it's been so powerful and instrumental.
Well,
Thank you for sharing that and for calling that
yeah.
out. I mean, Ellie and Emmy, they're both like that to me, even though I've known them for, oh my God, Ellie, like since October.
Yeah.
No, actually, before October, but you're
Well,
right.
we
Someone
met
that's
before.
genuine. Yeah, okay.
We haven't met for a year yet, but I think we became friends the first moment we saw each other. We created this like trust circle, like for real. And then I introduced them to my friends. They became friends also. So it's kind of I get, yeah, Mina, what you mean, because you need your friends, your family, or people who cares about you and makes you get to your goal even though you might be tired. I think that's very important because you need it. Everyone needs it in their life, somebody who can rely on, and that's why I totally get what you mean.
I noticed that in our conversation before the podcast, it seemed like the three of you had all gone through adversities, and then we're supporting each other in being better versions of yourselves. And that I think that really came through to me was that yes, you want to professionally develop each other, and yes, you want to support each other in advancing in your careers, but more than that, you're just a good group of girlfriends who want to help each other grow on an emotional level.
That's
Yes.
true. And that's why we started this podcast, because we realized like how important the community is, and we're trying to build a community where we can provide a safe platform where no judgment will be casted for being emotional. You can, we haven't found anyone to cry in a podcast, but if you want to cry, it's totally fine. If you want to laugh and get angry, it's fine.
Amy's not here, but she cries every single podcast, I think, because she always feels like emotions and she's crying. I'm laughing, and Amy's laughing too. But it depends on the emotion you have, and you can express it here because that's the idea. You can say what you think and share your experience with our audience. That's the idea, so they get this encouragement and they can make themselves also, because sometimes you don't have like this friends network, uh and maybe hearing somebody you don't know, I mean, it helps you to do what you want to do, and that's why we are here today.
I don't think we can emphasize enough the importance of emotional awareness, resilience, and coping in our personal, but also our professional development. I feel like we make our workplaces entirely devoid of emotions and we pretend like they don't happen, when really, how do we make most of our decisions in life? Like when you wake up in the morning, you think to yourself, well, at least I do, at least I do. I think to myself, what do I want to eat this morning? I usually don't say to myself, oh, what's going to be the healthiest choice or what's going to be the fastest choice. Usually, what do I feel like having? And based on that, you make your breakfast. Then you go in and then you initiate a conversation with a colleague. You're normally not in your thinking brain of what conversation is going to be most strategic. You're probably the first moment you step into the office thinking, oh, is that person there who I really like chatting with? What are they up to? Should I go grab a coffee with them or not? Right. And then even when we're picking a job or deciding whether to stay with a job or not, it's primarily driven by, do I feel like I'm being paid enough? Do I feel valued? So I think it's a little bit ridiculous, but also really unhelpful when we pretend like our feelings don't exist, because that's not how we make most of our decisions in life. So, I mean, I think it's much more helpful to just say, hey, most of my decisions are going to be based on my emotions. So I better tap into those, realize what they are, and channel those. And the other thing is, I don't think that's a bad thing. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like people
Not at
always
all.
say making emotion focused or based decisions is a bad thing. Like we should be focusing on our intellect. But isn't aren't we all just trying to feel good?
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that what
The
we're trying to
ultimate
get to?
goal.
Yeah, we don't just want to be smarter, or we don't just want we want to feel good. So in order to feel good, you have to make decisions based on your self-knowledge about what makes you feel good. So what's wrong with making decisions based on how you feel?
And that's true, or even expressing it at work, right? Like it's totally fine. And like wait till you have your kid, you'll be thinking about, oh, what's that kid going to eat too? Like, and when they go to school, like my little one is at school now, I feel like make 2 snacks and like a lunch. I was like, oh my god. So every day I wake up like, what is the 2 snacks I can put for her without being judged by the school teacher? Like, oh, she just put peanut butter like sandwich into like all the things you have to think about. Then I go on Instagram or on like Pinterest to look for all these amazing lunch boxes. It's like, who has freaking time to do that? But no, you're right. I really love that you brought it up too, because another topic that we all, listen and to, a lot of people asking us is like how to manage emotions at work. Like, why do you need to manage? Like, we're only humans.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's funny because I'm not a mom yet. I'm just pregnant. But already I feel the mom guilt and the mom judgment.
Yeah.
And because there's just no comparison between somebody whose 24-hour job is to take care of a house and to take care of a kid and to take care of their pregnancy. That person just objectively has more time than I do. So I'm not going to be able to research all of the multivitamins and research all of the goods and go to all the classes and make all of my own food. That's just not realistic for me. As opposed to that person who that's their whole job, right?
Yeah.
Is to take care of
Yeah.
themselves and take care of their family members and take care of their baby. So for me, I thought, oh, this mom guilt thing, it's gonna hold off until I actually give birth, but no, it kicks in, basically much
It
sooner
is here.
apparently.
Oh my goodness, yours kicked in really way sooner, but it will happen, and just embrace it. It's okay. Like I tell Ellie a lot too, because we work in the same company. Like I am constantly feeling, and we're at home, like we're working remotely, it doesn't matter, I still feel the guilt. Like I'm up here working and she's downstairs calling me, mama, mama, and I was like, oh no. Like, I just want to break down and cry in a 1 hour meeting right now, like, because my little one's calling me and I cannot go away and go down and hold her. Like it's not easy. It's really not easy. um
You're not giving her a like a great future.
I know I'm not, but I'm being realistic now and just like really,
Yeah. Please do not feel scared, Yami.
No, I think this is definitely stuff that we all think about, which is um being a working mom versus being a stay-at-home parent. I mean, it's not even an option for most people, right? Most people can't stay at home the way the cost of living goes.
yeah, yeah,
It's not possible.
no, yeah,
I know.
so no.
Not at all.
I
You
was
have to go out and make it.
I was thinking about that recently because I noticed that so many inspirational speakers and motivational speakers are men. I don't know if that's something that you've both noticed. And especially now that I'm pregnant and just what I go on a daily basis, like I can't sleep, my face is swollen, I have weird cravings, I have lower back pain, my body is massive. And I do the same work as everybody else, and then I do a little bit more. And
Mhm.
pretty soon, I'm gonna have an entire person who's gonna rip through my body, probably causing massive physical trauma. And then I'm gonna just go back to work.
Yeah.
And then I'll be on meetings, but also a cow.
Yeah.
So, and I just thought to myself, how bizarre is that there's way more motivational inspiration speakers that are men when you think about how inspiring it is to be pregnant and to go to work, to be a mom and go to work. Like to me, that just it didn't really add up now that I'm here.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. And no, and I'm not gonna say, but you know what I realized? I'm on Instagram a lot as well. There are a lot of mothers out there being very vocal about their emotions and the reality, which is helpful for me because the breastfeeding part, like, it was really tough. And then if you don't have enough milk, there's so many things, so many things like pumping and working. And this is why resilience is just like you said again, don't push away those feelings, embrace it. And one thing I tried to do was after like postpartum, I had postpartum depression, and dealing with that was really tough because I'm alone here in a country where my family is not here, and just dealing with it alone while working. It's just so hard. I had no one. It was so tough for me. I was going through postpartum depression. I have to go back to work. I was like legit. I had to carry my baby to meetings on a daily basis. But I think at one point, I think I was seeing a shrink. I was talking to the therapy, and I was like, embrace your emotion. I was like allowing it to happen and dealing with a lot of things too with the relationship, at that point, because it was not, great. So embrace it. And I don't know how I made it through, but like embrace those emotions and those feelings, and then you'll come out a stronger person and a better person because you realize like you deserve more. You need to focus on yourself and the baby, and or like you learn how to prioritize things and be happy. So resilience is very important.
Like, to me, that's a really inspirational story about you being in this country all alone with a newborn and going to work and managing a tough relationship. To me, this is a really powerful story. But a lot of, stories that I read on LinkedIn are like my story of like me or like some guy who was like fired at work. I'm sorry, but being fired from work is just not as inspiring as I have a newborn in one hand and I'm trying to produce milk and I have postpartum depression, right? And those kind of stories, like the story that you have, Emily, we kind of have just normalized that is how women are supposed to live their life. We've normalized that kind of pain and trauma. What doesn't make sense to me is like every single time a woman gives birth, she should be on LinkedIn being like, you will not believe this insanely inspirational thing that I did today.
Yeah.
Right? Like we see stories like mine, which are like, I got fired from work, but then I got back up. Oh, my startup failed. And then my other startup failed, but I started a new startup. And I'm not saying that those things are not important or inspirational, but to me, as somebody who's gone through a lot of hard professional things, there's nothing as hard that I've gone through professionally as being pregnant. And I have a feeling that nothing is going to be as hard as giving birth. But we just don't look at them with the same, I think, esteem.
We don't. Yeah. We don't. We just push it and then move on.
Yeah,
Well, yeah. The Ellie.
I
Yeah,
was going
Ellie.
to ask about the layoffs, but now I don't know
No, I think that's still yeah,
if that
that's
was
still an
important.
important. We will.
No.
No, we will be wrapping up. Like I think you're right. Like I think every experience is just different. Um, like and it means differently to different people. But going back to like your topic of layoffs, like and actually in these days, I'm not sure on LinkedIn feed, like layoff announcements are just like, oh gosh, mushrooming. And you're right, like right, that's what you were saying. And also like in a recent survey conducted by Aerotech, like a staffing firm, revealed that nearly 70% of job seekers find their current job search much more challenging than their previous ones. And so, you also see a group of people trying to start their own businesses, or the other group like really struggling with their emotions of going through like the job hunting, because that's a full-time job too, which is tough. I mean, giving birth is tougher, but like that's also equally tough for.
Yeah. And
Um,
the mental stress also because you were laid off
Everything is
and
financial, and
all
yeah,
the process you have to go through until you get one.
yeah, and Yamina, like just one more example, like that really, because I'm also part of a nonprofit organization where I help with the job hunting group, and mothers, there are single mothers that are being laid off.
Yeah.
It's just like I was tearing during that call because I can only imagine, like, if I, God forbid, I'm being laid off now, and I have to support my child, and she was saying she had to cancel some of his activities because they simply have no financial means, and that broke my heart. And then she has to go and explain to him like why. So it, everyone's experiences is different, but we would definitely
Yes.
appreciate you sharing that site, like what three key actionable things or advice you would give to listeners to like deal and embrace those emotions. How did you do that and overcome like your different waves of emotion, from anger, sadness, like probably depression and things like that?
Look, I have to be honest with you. Like I was pretty lucky when I was laid off. I had a really good job. I had a good amount of savings. I also had a partner that was really, really supportive. So for me, the financial aspect of it, it really didn't hit the same. As somebody who has a lot of student debt, who has to support a child, who has a lot of assets that they need to pay into. And I do think that helped a lot. I mean, the financial aspect, I think for me more so hit when I was starting my business, right? Because it's not like you start a business and then day one, you're you're earning dollar bills, right?
Mm-hmm.
You start a business and you're usually spending dollar bills. And I think that is the part where you have to really believe in yourself, because to see your bank account going down every day and
Mm-hmm.
then thinking to yourself, okay, I could go out and get a job or continue spending money on this. It's really hard. It's really hard to do, and you have to be really 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 confident in what you're doing. So the financial piece for me was not the same. I think something that was really helpful to me was I did a lot of networking when I was fired, to try and figure out exactly where I belonged. Because obviously something had
Mm-hmm.
not worked out last time for me or for the other person. And it was genuine networking. It wasn't networking where I'm just secretly trying to get a job with that other person. It was genuinely trying to understand, am I heading into an environment where I'm going to be valued, where I'm going to have a steady job, and where I'm going to enjoy what I'm doing? And of course, like I had the privilege of approaching networking from that place, and I think if someone is more financially desperate, they might, that might not even be an option for them. But if somebody does have the time and space to take that layoff as an opportunity to think about, um, do I actually want to continue working in this industry, or do I want to continue living in this city, or do I want to continue doing this role? I think that is something that they could potentially do, is see it, rather than seeing it as setback, see it as an opportunity to be in a better place. But I think a lot of the layoffs, from what I've seen recently, there's not really any rhyme or reason to them. Like, they're just, I know there's a lot of layoffs happening in the tech industry. I think a lot of jobs are being moved overseas. There's a lot of mergers and acquisitions. So, I mean, I think if somebody is in that place, like, I know it's hard to do because our society, especially, I know American society especially, but generally, neoliberal societies, we're so focused on, it's my fault, and pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And that's not necessarily the case. If like a third of people in your company are being fired, it's not because you didn't pull on your bootstraps enough. It's because there's some kind of systemic problem, and it's okay to be mad about it and to be angry about it, and you don't have to take it on and see it as a sign of personal defeat.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think there, there's a few things. Like one is, yeah, really thinking about why you've been let go. Is it really your fault? Um, and then potentially seeing it um, as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, resilience is all about your mental, like the perspective, like the mindset, your mindset and
Yeah.
perspective, right? You embrace it, figure out what why the what, and take some time for yourself, right? No need to think too much, and then you turn it into an opportunity that
Yeah.
benefits you.
I always think the same. You have two possibilities. Or you sit and cry, or you take that bad situation and turn it into a new possibility, into a new challenge, and you face it and you deal with it, and then you are going to get the result you need, or at least it's going to start a new path for yourself. So that's about resilience. I think it's what you do with what happened to you, and how you make it work.
Yeah, yeah, and we're almost at time here, ladies. Yamina, want to give final last words of wisdom?
I want to piggyback off of what Ellie was saying. Something that I heard is any situation that you're in, you can change it, you can leave it, or you can accept it.
Mm,
It could be the meal you're having, it could be the job you're in, the relationship you're
yeah,
in, your house,
yeah.
but that's it. So if you don't like your relationship, you can make an effort. Um, if or if you don't want to make an effort, you can go find somebody else, or you have to enjoy it and appreciate it. And I think for me, anytime I get really mopey or sad or complaining, I'm like, that's it. You have those three options.
Mm.
So which
Yeah.
one which one do you want to pick today?
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good
Yeah.
one.
And for me, it's like the same. I think the same as you, Yamina. For me, it's like it's up to you, your mindset. What do you want? Do you want to keep on crying? And you can cry because that's acceptable. We are human beings, but after you cry, think, you want to keep on crying or you want to do something else. And
Mm-hmm.
that's very important.
Mm-hmm. All right, that wraps up our episode today. Yamina, thank you so much again for speaking, for taking the time.
So much
Yeah.
for having me. This was so much fun. Thank you, ladies.
I'm
Yeah,
glad.
no, thank you, Yamina. I told you before this, but I admire you and I'm really happy to know you now a little bit more every single interaction we have. So thank you very much for coming and meeting us.
Yep,
It's great learning more about both of you as well. Thanks so much for being so open and vulnerable.
Uh,
absolutely. All right, thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you very
Bye.
much. Bye
Yep.
Bye.
bye.